This is Laricy Live, and I'm your host, Matt Laricy. We're giving you unfiltered access to the world of real estate, where we can cover the market trends, news, and honest answers to keep you ahead of the real estate game. Laricy Live is brought to you by Lincoln Title. Lincoln Title is the best and most efficient title company in Chicago and is the best place to close your property. This podcast is brought to you by Titan Builders. Titan Builders have been remodeling condos and homes in the Chicagoland area for over 35 years. Whether it's remodeling your kitchen or bathroom or getting your home ready for sale, Mike and Mark are your go-to guys. Laricy Live is brought to you by Guaranteed Rate and Ben Cohen. Ben Cohen is the #1 lender in Illinois and can close your loan in as fast as 8 days. All right, so today we are talking about a little old wives' tale. Something that people have been talking about. I have to think this is like late 90s, early 2000s. Maybe it was mid-90s. Who knows when this thing actually... Does anybody ever really know when an old tale starts, right? And this old tale is the best time ever to list is the day after the Super Bowl. It's a saying as old as time. Maybe not as old as time. But it's been a saying for a while. Maybe it's been a saying since the modern times. And what we want to talk about a little bit today is, is it the best time to list, the day after the Super Bowl? How does the market changing with that? And what's really happening in the market right this second? So, let's kind of start with how is inventory starting, so far this year up until now. Inventory is, at the lowest point. January is always a super, super low list season. One of the reasons why January is so low is because it's probably one of the coldest months for Chicago. And the average consumer that's selling, okay, so if you're selling, the average consumer says, well, who's looking when it's 5 degrees out? Well, let me tell you something. A buyer that has a March, April, May lease is looking when it's 5 degrees out. I always tell sellers, I say, hey, Mr. Seller, just because it's 5 degrees out doesn't mean that somebody's lease date's going to change, right? It's not like April 15th comes along, and then all of a sudden the person that has the landlord's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to let you out of your lease this year a month later because it was, cold for like 3 or 4 days in the beginning of January. So like, I don't need to make any money. Live for free. Figure it out. It's not how it works. But in sellers' heads, they think it looks like that. So they're always like that. Every time I say, January is the best time ever to list because it's got the lowest amount of inventory. Now, guys, asterisk, got a $4 million property. Okay, January's probably not the best time, but you got a place under $1 million, okay? In January, lowest inventory, highest demand, okay? That's the best time to list. If you think, and for a lot of people out there are going to say, well, like, isn't spring market April? It's boomer mentality. Boomer mentality. Spring market is January 2nd, okay? So all the millennials, Gen Zs, and what's that new one? Alpha? What a name. Just like they just like giving up on these names these days. Alpha. Wow. I don't even know what to, I'm like flustered. That's such a terrible name. I just keep thinking about Alpha. What is it? Alpha Dog with Justin Timberlake, that movie? Yeah. Like, wow, that's bad. Anyways, in the modern days, January is the new April. This is the hottest month. And for anybody out there that doesn't believe me, just look at when the most closings happen in Chicago every year. The most closings happen in April and May. So if your most closings happen in April and May, they're not going on contract in April and May. They're going on contract in January or February. So how does inventory look at the start of time of year? It's low. It's super low. I compare inventory right now to a war, okay? And imagine at this war that we're storming the beaches. And as the guys are getting off the boats, those first round of guys are just getting wiped out. They're just getting demolished, okay? It's the first wave. Now, that's what's happening with real estate. That first wave of troops that's hitting, they're just gone. They're just getting knocked right out. They're getting scooped right up. It's the second and third and fourth waves. Those are the waves that make it to the beaches. Those are the ones that start getting a foothold. Those are the ones that start fighting back. And those are the ones that start eventually winning. So if you look at real estate like a game of war, and you look at buyers are the ones on the beaches defending their territory, and sellers are rushing to try to get attention, the first ones out are getting the most attention because they're gone. But by the time that you get to the fourth wave, inventory is going to stick a little bit, and then buyers are going to start to win. And then that means that the buyers are going to start to control the marketplace, which is what happens by the fourth quarter. So right now, the first waves of inventory, that's why I call it the spring wave. Okay, you get a new wave of buyers, and all the waves of inventory that hit get shot down. It's the lowest point. Why do a lot of people think the best time to list is the day after the Super Bowl? You know, the mentality of what I hear with a lot of people, and this guy that we did the calculation, we had 60% more listings in Chicago than anybody else did last year. 60%. We had 60% more closed listings last year than any other real estate team, okay? So what I can tell you is what we see when I talk to people, they just literally blame the weather. I feel like in Chicago we blame the weather for everything, right? Raining outside, well, we didn't get any showings. Tough day out today. It's raining. It's too hot outside. Like, it's too hot outside. You know, of course, people are going to be at the bars. Too cold outside. Like, nobody's leaving their house for it, right? Like, there's always an excuse. I'm just the type of guy, I cannot stand excuses. You know, everybody's always going to have a million different excuses. But the reason people think the best time ever to list is like, well, it's too cold outside in January. A lot of buyers are going to look in spring. And if I want to get a leg up on the spring market, the day after the Super Bowl kind of falls right in that territory of like that mid-February to end of February time to list, where they think the weather kind of starts to break a little bit, which also means that that's probably the best time to list. News alert, best time to list if you're under $1 million is before the Super Bowl. Now, you got a $2 million penthouse in River North. I probably agree with. I'd probably wait till closer to the Super Bowl. I mean, I got a lot of places that are like above $1 million in the downtown markets, and my advice to all my clients right now, I'm like, let's hold a little bit. You know, I'm starting to see some showings in our high-end stuff. Things are kind of moving. Let me back it up. Things are not moving, but we're starting to see people come into the door. Once I see more of those buyers come in the door, which I think will happen after the Super Bowl, then I would agree with the mentality. It's like, hey, maybe the best time ever to list for a $1 million plus property in the downtown markets would be, that time. Now, we also have to remember, too, guys, is that, every property is different. What's good for one property is not good for another property. And what's good for, one price point is not good for another price point. So we have to kind of factor that all into play when we're looking at when's the best time to do something. Because it's not like a one-shoe-fits-all situation here. Man, some good water, Good
water?
Yeah, we're getting away from the bottle stuff. And, going to this. I don't know what these things are. It's solid. Anyways, it's a plug for one of these water machines, water cooler machines. I do see, like, at these water coolers, by the way, that, like, we do tend to stand around the water cooler and talk a little bit. So it's like a legit thing. It's a thing. What's the difference between pre-Super Bowl and post-Super Bowl? I would say that pre-Super Bowl property values under $1 million, specifically under $750,000, tend to get more money than post-Super Bowl. What happens is you see a lot of people see places go under contract. They're asking like $550 or something like that. They may get like $610. And then the neighbor will come on at like $560, but they don't know the other people got $610 because it hasn't closed yet, okay? So they ask a little bit more, but they don't have that much demand, right? Because after the Super Bowl, you have a lot more inventory hit the market. So you have more options. The more options you have, the less money you get. So what we see is that, after the Super Bowl, we see prices kind of start to take a hit. I really think the first 6 weeks of the year, if you're selling a place under $750 is when you're going to get the most money. That's just my opinion. It's what I see. I mean, I'm seeing right now, if you ask me, what am I seeing? There was a guy, I won't give his name, great client, really nice guy, made an offer on a place on Belmont. And he also looked at a place on Belmont in December. And I was like, listen, dude, you're not going to believe me what's going to happen after the first year, like the difference in the market. And this place on Belmont, he lost out to in the wintertime, sold for $600,000. It was a 3-2 with a private roof deck. Okay, so 3-2, private roof deck, went for $600,000. Another unit, like right next door, came on the market a couple weeks ago, okay, post-December. 3-bed, 2-bath, not as nice of finishes as the other one. No roof deck. No outdoor space really at all other than like one of those small balconies. Came on the market at $525. So you're thinking, hey, Matt, that other one went for $600. That looks like it's the right price. It went for over $615,000. Okay, so it went for substantially more than a place with a private roof deck just 3 to 4 weeks later. I mean, that's the difference. Now, if that place comes on after the Super Bowl, I don't think it gets that price. I really don't. So that's the difference. That's literally the difference. What types of properties come on more after the Super Bowl? So this is another big one to watch. I get a lot of clients, a lot of clients. They're like, hey, I want a big 3-bedroom.
or I want a single family home. Well, guess what? Those people aren't listed in January. They're just not going to do it. You have to remember, a lot of these people, have kids. A lot of people with big 3 bedrooms have kids, and they're tied to the school years, okay? And a lot of those people also have their kids in daycare. And for anybody with children, you got to know that you pay for that daycare up front. So if you leave in April or you leave in June, you're footing that daycare bill. And I've never met anybody that wants to give their daycare free cash, okay? So a lot of people will wait. So after the Super Bowl, we start seeing more bigger 3 bedrooms and more single-family homes hit the market consistently. Now, those really start to amp up after spring break, okay? But they're almost non-existent. It's what's wild to me. This is the most wild thing to watch. And remember I said this, and somebody actually go do the homework this year so you can see how right I am. And the reason I know this is because, again, we have so many listings, and I see this happen so many times. You can't give away a duplex down, a huge, big 3-bedroom duplex down. You can't give these things away from September to December. They don't move. There's no market for them. January 2nd hits. A big duplex down sells first day on the market with multiple bids, okay? Because there's none of them on the market. Those really pour into the markets after the Super Bowl. Those townhomes, and then, of course, single families start to roll in a little bit more. So that's the big difference. When's the next big wave of inventory going to hit the marketplace? So if we look at the waves of inventory, okay, so just for people, you want to predict where the market is, understand the human brain. And humans, we use target dates for deadlines. And what do people use as target dates? Holidays. So next big wave of inventory is going to be spring break. After spring break will be Memorial Day. After Memorial Day will be July 4th. After July 4th will be Labor Day, okay? So that's how people, because here's how people will be like, well, I want to get my stuff together. I'll definitely have it on the market before the kids go on spring break. Oh, I got to get my stuff together. We definitely want to be in the market. We'll have everything done no later than Memorial Day. That's how people talk, guys. It's like, I always tell people, everybody is actually like very similar in a way. And then people will tell me, no, they're not. Everybody's different. It's like, okay, well, here's the thing. Why don't you guys take a note, get a 4th floor walk up on a busy street, okay, and take a note of how many times the average person walks to the top of the stairs, looks at you and says, well, I got my workout for the day, or like, I don't need a workout, etc. I will tell you right now, I've done this study probably 150 times, that 99.9% of people say it. It just comes out. Even if you don't want to, I'll tell you, I know that people are going to say it, and I still catch myself saying it. It's just like a reaction, okay? So when we talk about why do people use target dates, it's like built in our DNA. It's just like built in our DNA that we're just going to revolve everything around some sort of holiday. Are 3 beds more common after Super Bowl? We talked about that. Are multiple bids more the norm right now? Yeah, multiple bids are like absolutely batshit crazy. It's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. It's insanity. Something coming on at 500,000. I said in the last podcast, add 30 to 35 onto it. I'm adding 50. Something comes on today at 500,000, add 50,000 on top. That's what's happening. We've got 3 properties that we sold this year that sold for $100,000 over ask price. I've never seen that happen in my career, ever. Like 100,000 over, and like this isn't like a $2 million place, so like people go 100,000 over ask, and it's like, not a big deal, right? These are like, if it's 550, you get $100,000 more than ask price. That's a huge deal. That's a different price point. Like it just doesn't even make sense. So, yeah, that's multiple bids are the norm. Now, if you're watching this, you're like, man, I got a single family home in the Gold Coast. That is not happening. That is not happening. You got a $750,000 property in Streeterville. That's not happening. But 50% of the markets, it is happening in. Are you still seeing a tale of 2 cities? Yes. The tale of 2 cities is still real. But I will tell you, I'm telling you right now, watch this. Watch it this year. The 3 pillars that held cities down. I said this last week. I'm going to say it again. The 3 pillars that held cities down, crime, sanctuary status, and lack of back to work, are all changing. They have all those pillars have now fallen. And we are seeing confidence come back in the city place. And whether you agree with it or disagree with it, I don't really care. I'm not, you don't sit here, me telling you that I agree with one side or the other side. I'm not saying this. I'm unbiased in this. It's like me reporting the news. All I can tell you is that before, with these 3 pillars standing, Downtown Chicago was the second worst market in the entire country behind downtown San Francisco. That's just a fact, okay? Today, with the pillars falling, I'm actually seeing buyers come. You know what is a buyer that I've seen more often than I have seen in the last 4 years is the empty nest buyer. The empty nest buyer, the empty nester buyer is starting to come back, and they're starting to tell me the stuff that I used to hear that I haven't heard in 4 years. Well, we've been in the burbs, kind of boring out there after a while. The kids are grown and, kind of want to have a little bit more action now. That's a huge portion of buyers in Chicago. We have a lot of really rich people that live in the North Shore and the western suburbs. Really rich people, okay? And they just have a bunch of money that they don't know what to do with. And they want to enjoy life. And they're a 25 to 35-minute ride away from one of the biggest cities in the world, okay? You got a 35-minute ride away from one of the biggest cities in the world, and you got $50 million in the bank, and you got to give away $1 million to buy a place. Like, you got maybe 5, 10, 20 years left in your life. Like, at the end of the day, you can't die with your cash. So that's a big market we're going to start seeing come raging back. What about rates? Are we seeing rates affect listings and when people want to list, whether that's going to affect before or after Super Bowl? Well, rates kind of peaked a couple weeks ago, and they're coming down slowly but surely. My prediction was 5.8 to 6.2 is where they're going to land all year. We're not there yet, but I can smell it. I can smell it. It's coming. Slowly but surely, chip by chip, it's coming. There's been some emergency relief bills that were passed. All of them indicate it. I mean, a lot of people think that, like, some of the guys in the office are saying, like, can I get them down to, like, crazy low rates? That ain't happen. Okay, but could they get down to a reasonable rate, like a 5.8 to a 6.2? That's something that's attainable. Maybe it's wishful thinking. Maybe it'll actually happen. Time will tell, but watch that. How are sales looking so far in January? Sales are booming. Sales are absolutely crazy. It is an absolutely insane market, and sales are up, and they're up for everybody. How do I foresee the market post-Super Bowl compared to pre-Super Bowl? I think the market post-Super Bowl is only going to continue to gain steam. I think it's like the little engine that it's slowly starting, and it's just moving along. It's chugging along, but it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger. And the market peaks in March and April. That's prime time, which we'll do a bunch of podcasts about prime time. Prime time is like when you have the absolute, like, just craziest amount of sales because you have them, people are peaked, and that's where the market peaks. Then once prime time's over, that's the end of the marketplace. It's just like slowly but surely it kind of goes down from there until you hit July 4th, and July 4th becomes balanced, and ever since then it's just kind of like a different market. But right now we're like a train, like a locomotive on a track, and it's just churning right towards that peak, and the market's just going to continue to build. And we'll cover that. We'll cover that next week about kind of where we're seeing what's happening with some of the stuff. But that's all we got for you. You got the Super Bowl. It's Chiefs versus Eagles. I hate both teams. I'm a Josh Allen guy. I'm rooting for good commercials. Me to open up a fantastic bottle of wine. That's a good question. I'm definitely going to open up something good. Personally, I'm going to overindulge in pizza, mozzarella sticks, chicken wings, and maybe some fried mushrooms. We might get crazy. So that's all we got for you. Thanks for listening to Laricy Live.